Hi, and welcome to Season 11, Episode 3 of My Words Our Journey. Less Than Perfect Endings. I'm Monty, your host and author. Let's recap before we begin. Drake rescued Mallory from an abusive relationship. They decided to head west, with no real plans. As they begin their journey, Drake learns early on that she's a magnet for trouble, and trouble they'll find when they hook up with Gwen. We'll also reconnect with old friends Trish and Kenny, who have planned a destination wedding and have invited their friends to the mountains of Colorado. Let's continue today's episode with Chapter 9, Plans Being Finalized. Cabin is not the word most would use to describe the homes Trish had booked. Kenny had seen the website, had checked out the golf course and fly fishing option. The accommodations were certainly more five-star than roughing it in a cabin in the woods. Hardwood floors, certainly decorated by professionals, glass windows that went from the floors to the ceilings, exposed wood beams, gift baskets on granite countertops, and views for miles. Each home sat on a side of a mountain. Each property had a wraparound porch with plenty of seating, swings, benches. Each driveway was white gravel, circular, and landscaped by a professional, with bushes and flowers that flourished in this climate. It was truly perfect, and Kenny kept telling Trish exactly that as he walked around with his mouth hanging wide open. There was a note on the kitchen table they had missed on their first walkthrough. It let them know there was an ATV, fueled up, and ready for their adventure to begin. It suggested a trail that was close to the home and a great way to start their exploration of the area. 10 minutes later, Kenny was driving up to the front steps. There was Trish looking all cute and ready for the ride. 15 minutes later, they were standing, holding hands, looking out over open terrain, surrounded by beautiful mountain ranges. Kenny took a deep breath and said, "How many days are we here?" Trish laughed and simply replied, "Not long enough. So let's enjoy every minute. My turn. Let me show you how you're supposed to drive this thing." And with a laugh, she was on the four-wheeler and ready to go. They spent the rest of the day going down Trish's day one checklist. It was do one task, mark it off, then do something fun, then check off the next item, then do something fun. It was finally done at 7:45 that evening, just in time for a nice dinner at the lodge. At the same time, the trio had spent nearly 24 hours together. At this point, Drake and Mallory had a pretty good system going with the driving. Gwen slept when Drake slept, and then she kept Mallory pointed in the right direction. It was dinner time. Gwen had offered to pay if they'd find a good seafood restaurant. Drake would be hard-pressed to admit it, but some deep-fried shrimp sounded pretty good right about now. Gwen had not grown on him at the least, but she was a comfort while he slept, and she did keep Mallory awake and pointed in the right direction. Also, the fact that she offered to pay sometimes meant that he could keep his money and stretch it a little further, which was always a good thing. Once the food was ordered, Drake excused himself and went to the bathroom. When he returned, he saw the two women were in deep conversation. As he took a seat next to Mallory, they both looked at him with focused stares. "Do you really think he would be an asset?" Gwen said to Mallory. "What are you two talking about?" "I can answer that question," Drake spoke. While he'd been gone for less than 5 minutes, Mallory had taken the bait and asked about the job she had mentioned earlier. Gwen had told her, for the most part, it was a revenge story at its core. Gwen thought that would play with Mallory. Wasn't so sure about Drake. When she was finished retelling her story and the job, Drake showed no emotion at all. The waitress showed up with the salads before any more talk could be had on the subject. Mallory could tell it was awkward tension, so she just said, "Let's finish our meal. Maybe we can pick this up later." When the last hush puppy was gone, Drake stepped back and surprised the ladies by saying, "What exactly would you expect of us? And what's our share of the money?" Gwen laughed and said, "We have hours to discuss how, when, and I know where, and the two of you will be greatly rewarded. I didn't expect to have company, so I'll have to work out that part, but I can give you 10 grand today as down payment on what is to come." Drake nor Mallory had ever seen or held 10 grand. "I mean, I think we can put what we had on hold to help out a friend, right, Mallory?" "Sure thing," she was quick to reply. Chapter 10, Arrivals. The following morning, Kenny and Trish took an early morning jog, then breakfast on the porch. Kenny loved that porch. And then they left for the airport. Sean and his lovely wife Jill were the first to arrive, all smiles and ready for a few days away from the stresses of life, as Sean put it. Everyone knew Jill was having some health issues. She was trying her hard not to let it show. Next was Trish's parents, whom she had not had a close relationship with, but was hoping the trip would help mend those fences. Kenny believed that's the way she'd put it. There was a little awkward tension at first, but they could tell that they appreciated being invited. Kenny had appeared out of nowhere before all the introductions could be made. He had told Kenny he'd be bringing a +1. He had been happy to hear the news. The old guy had been lonely too long. At Leonard's side stood the best-looking German shepherd he thought he had ever seen. Kenny could only laugh. Leonard introduced everyone to Sticks, his emotional therapy dog. Leonard told everyone how he had acquired the dog shortly after returning home after the shooting at the parking garage. He and Sticks had become instant friends, and the dog saved his sanity and kept him out of the bars. Kenny and Sean would agree later. Leonard looked 10 years younger since they had seen him last. He had a nice tan, lost some weight. Last to arrive were Kenny's parents. They arrived together, putting on the united front, but some of the crowd knew that it was just a facade. They lived in the same house, because neither would give in to the other. But they lived separate lives for many years now. There was one thing that they could agree on, however. They both despised dogs. So that should be fun. Kenny had asked Leonard and Sean to be his best men. They had both wholeheartedly agreed. Trish had asked 2 of her cousins. They had lost touch, but had reconnected on social media, took a long weekend together, laughed, cried, and become closer. As they walked out to the rentals, Kenny thought Trish wanted everything to be perfect. Probably wasn't going to be perfect. That was going to have to be okay. Life wasn't perfect. He was just so happy that friends and family were going to be together during this special time, and he was sure it was all going to work out. Others were making their way as well. The trio of Drake, Mallory, and Gwen should arrive about 9 p.m. if their GPS was close. Drake drove in silence. He was thinking through what he had been told. Bullet points. Doesn't make sense. Should he bail? Was it easy money? Would he do it just to make Mallory happy? He liked her. If she wanted him to go through with it, did he like her that much? A lot going on. First, what had she said? She had met this young girl in prison, had taken her under her wing. They had built a strong bond. The young girl gets out of prison, takes revenge on those that stole her life, her family. Before she can finish, she gets shot in the back by an old detective from North Carolina. Gwen had been blessed with her money, and she felt it was only right to finish what her friend had started. How could she feel right about spending even a penny of that money otherwise? Drake could feel that point. He could understand that. Her plan had been to go alone, but she was also one that believed in higher power of sorts, so she firmly believed Mallory and Drake had been put in her path for a reason. What better reason than to ensure the success of her quest? They arrived at the cabin at 9:15. Theirs was a cabin, well built, but older, decorated from the 70s, appliances the same, no television, one bathroom, 2 bedrooms. Gwen looked over both bedrooms, tossed her bag in the smaller, and said, "I'll let you kids have the bigger room." Chapter 11. Hot Air Balloons. The first hot air balloon took flight in September of 1783. It lasted 8 minutes and was witnessed by over 100,000 people. Animals were sent up instead of people because the brothers that invented the flying machine were not sure air was above them. 200 plus years later, and the wedding party was going up in 4 balloons. It was an early departure time, but the field was literally a 10-minute walk from the cabins. There was no group breakfast. 1, Trish had not planned one, and 2, she did that on purpose. She had, however, made sure that there was plenty of items to snack on, cook, and drink. Kenny could account for that. He had helped stock every refrigerator, cabinet, and countertop. There would be food left to feed the staff for a week, he figured, but said nothing. As the balloons departed, 3 strangers below waved up at them. Gwen knew almost everything about the weekend, some in advance, some only a short time before it took place. But that was okay. She could adapt. Gwen had used social media to befriend the bride through a group she had joined soon after she had gotten engaged. She had also become friends with the 2 twins through an arts and craft group they belonged to. It was really quite easy. They waved to the unsuspected group as they gained altitude. There would be some recon while they were enjoying the mountain views. They would be none the wiser when they returned. Drake was not in the best of spirits. Sleep had not come easy. The morning had been rushed, which was not like the way he liked to work. He'd be okay. The fresh air had made up for a lot. Add in the scenery, the mountain views, the fast-moving stream just off to the northeast, horses feeding in the open field just off to the southwest. It was exactly where he'd like to live, if he could afford it. When the balloons rounded the first corner, the trio leisurely made their way to the nicest of the cabins, which looked like a mansion made out of the most wonderful trees. The black SUVs lined the gravel drive. It was like something out of a movie, Drake thought. There was no outside cameras, no security system of any type, as far as he could see. Perfect. Gwen tried her cell phone, no bars, same as on their side. Chapter 12. Jill. 2 weeks before the trip west, Sean and Jill Trammell had spent a full day at the hospital. Blood test, a biopsy, image scan, all to see if her cancer had returned. Every day since, she and Sean had checked their phones, looking at their health chat apps, worrying and praying. The cabins did not have a landline, but the main office did. That was the number they had given to her primary care physician. The debate had been waiting until they got back from the trip and finding out then, or to find out as soon as possible. Jill had wanted the latter, and she had got what she wanted. So when the couple got back from the balloon trip, which had taken all of Jill's energy, they had a yellow sticky note on the front door. Message at the desk was all it said. They sat in the rockers on the front porch and caught their breaths, and then they headed to the office and the phone. They held hands, but neither spoke during the short walk. The manager let them have her office to make the call. Her name was Nancy. Her and Jill had hit it off. Dr. Kaufman had a little bedside manner, but he had come highly recommended, and after a quick Google search, one could see why. So when a client said they had a friend that had a sister that worked in his admin office, they were more than eager to take advantage. They had already tried on their own, and the doctor was not taking new patients, had a long wait list, and was booked out for months. and months. When he got on the line, there was no inflection in his voice that told good or bad news, just news. And when he said the words, it hit them both like a wave of despair. The sentences were broken after that, both wanting to listen, but also recovering from the wave. They heard cancer was back. It had spread. He was sorry. Make Jill comfortable. Strong opioids. A few months at best. The couple's love was strong. They thanked him for calling, held each other, just sharing the moment. They now knew they had less months than they had hoped. A few months at best. Sean's heart was broken. He would be strong for Jill. That was never a question. But he was a broken man inside. When they were back to the cabin, he fixed a drink, wished he had a cigar. Jill hated him, but he sure could use one right about now. She had gone to the bathroom. He assumed to fix herself up. They were expected at the main restaurant shortly. He knew not to suggest that they pass. Jill would not have nothing of it. As he sat on the porch, he heard Leonard and Sticks somewhere between the cabins. Sean made his way towards the sounds. The two were playing fetch, and both seemed so happy. When Leonard saw his friend, he threw the stick as far as he could and walked over. "You don't look your best. What's up?" Leonard was smoking. Sean took the cigarette, took a long drag, then handed it back. "When I smell like smoke, I'm blaming you." "I'm okay with that. Now what's going on? Work or Jill?" He told his dear friend the bad news and asked he keep him to himself. Jill would handle it in her own way. The two were telling Sticks what a good boy he was when Jill rounded the corner. Both noticed the wine glass in her hand. Neither was going to say a word. The four, yes, we'll include Sticks, walked slowly towards the lodge, each deep in their own thought, each playing a role of sorts. That turned into a pretty heavy episode there at the end, so let's stop there for today. As always, thank you for listening, and have a great day.